All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the top 8 things that buyers tend to forget about mid-transaction.
You better get fired up.
It's my favorite day, baby. It's Monday. I'm glad you're here with me, and hopefully today we can give you some information to help you along that buyer process, right? Everybody knows hook up with a lender and find yourself a realtor and then go look at some houses, right? That's a pretty typical timeline of what people do. But after that, if you really haven't bought a home, or if maybe you haven't bought a home in 5-10 years, a lot of the details of that home buying process can kind of fleet your mind, right? So today, I'm going to give you 8 things that you might want to think about, you might want to prepare about before you start that home purchasing journey, right? Number 1 is insurance. I would say this is more for folks who are really tight on numbers or very analytical and want to make sure they fully understand the numbers. There's a big difference in let's just take a $500,000 home. In a $500,000 home that has a 17-year-old shingled roof and a pool and normal windows, and let's just stop right there, right? And another $500,000 home that does not have a pool, has impact glass throughout, and has a brand new metal roof. Your insurance numbers could be thousands different, right? Which when you look at a monthly, that could be $200, $300, $400 a month. It's a lot of money. So again, if you're really tight on money, I can't tell you how many people I've had who are told, hey, you are approved for, let's say 500 grand. They find a home for 500 grand and the lender says you can't purchase it, right? You're not really approved for 500 grand. What you're approved for is a monthly payment based on debt to income ratios and a bunch of other ratios. You're coming up with a price. The lender's coming up with a price based on that monthly that they think you can afford. Okay. So they can pretty accurately, although mortgage rates go up and down, they can pretty accurately guess how or how much your principal and interest are going to be, right? And taxes, you can get pretty doggone close unless you're changing areas, right? But that'll still be pretty dang close. But when it comes to insurance, it can be drastically different. So a lot of times I'll tell people, if you're approved up to 500,000, let me talk with your lender and find out, do you have any wiggle room on that? If you do, we're probably not worried, right? Go look at whatever it is you want to look. If you're worried about numbers like $200-300 extra dollars, or if you're really tight on numbers, we might need to look at homes that are either 500 grand but have new roofs and impact glass and things that we don't need to insure, extra things, or we may need to look at 470, 480, and now we can look at homes with older roofs, shingled roofs, normal windows, stuff like that, right? So it's just having that discussion and understanding those numbers before you get too in depth with the process, so that you're comfortable, right? It's all about being comfortable and confident. The next thing is taxes. Now, I'll tell you, Michelle Franklin with our appraiser's office does a phenomenal job of explaining how your taxes work, your property taxes, right? It is not an easy math equation. I'm a sharp dude who sells real estate every single day. I've had multiple discussions with them, and I would say I understand 95% of it. There's still something I don't fully understand that I got to call and ask them about. It's convoluted, it's complex, it's challenging, and there's reasons for it, right? They want it to be fair, or as fair as possible. They also want to give value to people who stay in Florida. So you've got portability and stuff like that, but you've got exemptions, the homestead exemption, right? If you're disabled, if you're a widower, there's a bunch of different exemptions you're going to want to find out. How is the tax calculated? How is it assessed? And then how do the exemptions work? And what is portability? How does that impact me? And so what you're going to see in a worst case scenario is, I'll give you 2 worst case scenarios. One is old man Bob Johnson is 87 years old. He's lived in the house for the last 42 years. And even though you're buying his home for 500 grand, his taxes say he's paying $1,067 a year. And you're thinking, cha-ching, jackpot. If I purchase this home, I'm going to have some of the lowest taxes in the state. I'm fired up about this. And then all of a sudden the new year comes around and boom, your taxes go up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And you're like, how did that happen? So the reason is because there are caps on a homestead property. right? The assessed value can only go up 3% a year if you're homestead. So Old Man Johnson has been there, and his assessed value has been going up a little bit every single year. Whereas if you look at any home in the last 5 years, the price has doubled at a minimum, right? Meaning your assessed value is roughly doubled, which means your taxes are going to roughly double. Okay, so Old Man Johnson, he went up a little bit every single year, while a normal, let's say you own it as an investment property, it's not homestead, or you're purchasing it from somebody who had purchased it previously 5 years ago, you're going to see those taxes roughly double. Okay, here's another scenario. If you buy new construction, that property tax is based on the lot only. So it's going to be hundreds of dollars, maybe $600, $700, $800, $900. You're going to purchase that home next year. All of a sudden, boom, you're paying $500,000, $600,000, $7,000. So that's the drastic difference between the taxes, right? So there's 17 asterisks to what I'm about to say. But generally speaking, if you're buying in a similar area and you forget about the HOA and everything else, and you're just looking at property taxes, a $500,000 home here is going to have the same taxes as a $500,000 home here. It does not matter what the current person is paying. What you will pay will end up being roughly the same, if not exactly the same. So if you want to ask specific questions, you can call the appraiser's office. They're really good at it. Or you can go look at a tax estimator. If you go on a PASLC for property appraiser, St. Lucie County.gov, you can look up any property in the county. They got a tax estimator, and it'll give you, in my opinion, a pretty conservative look. Like whatever they're telling you, it's going to be that or lower. I've never seen it go over that. So anyway, taxes, really important. What are your thoughts on HOAs? That's another big one, right? Because I'm completely making this up, but I would say half, 40, 60, somewhere percent of the properties in Port St. Lucie are going to be in HOAs, meaning if you say, I don't want an HOA, you just cut out roughly half of your options. That's a lot, right? Also, there are fees attached to HOAs. Some HOAs are $15. Some HOAs are $700, right? They're a lot. So you've really got to look at what you want. And what do you get? I had someone the other day, they're like, $300, I'm not paying $300. That's crazy. Who would pay that? And then I'm like, well, people who don't want to mow their lawn, people who don't want to pay for their internet and their cable, and they want their irrigation taken care of, and they want their pest control. Oh, it takes care of all that. Oh my gosh. Well, that sounds like a deal. Now I'll take it. So really the point isn't like them or don't like them. It's educate yourself so that you know what you're talking about. And regardless of which way you go on the HOA, you know what the heck you feel about it, right? Also, if you've got pets, if you've got commercial vehicles, if you like to put furniture and lawn ornaments and do specific types of landscaping, you might not like an HOA, right? So really look at the rules, the bylaws, the covenants, the declarations of that HOA to fully understand exactly what is going on there. And I'd even go a step further. I don't see this a lot. Really delve into the financials. There's a big difference in my comfort level purchasing in a community that has, say, 6 to 12 months of their budget in reserves, and one that's got, I heard of one the other day, had $2,900 in reserves. How are you running a hundreds of person community with $2,900 in your reserves? That's mind-blowing. That is scary as a homeowner, right? You're going to get a lot of assessments there. You don't control the assessments. You don't know what's going on. I would not want to live in a community like that. So take a second to look at the financials with your realtor and make sure you understand them. Next, and I'm kind of lumping all of this together, but you're going to want to get pre-approved through a lender. And the reason is, I can't tell you how many times I've seen buyers come to my listings, or I have buyers and they call me and they're super excited about, 123 3rd Street, whatever property it is they're excited about, and they want to put an offer in. And the first thing a listing agent's going to say is, where's your pre-approval? So if you haven't gone through the process, which you've got to submit some paperwork, it only takes a half an hour, but for some of you guys, if you don't keep great records of your paperwork, it might take you a little bit longer to search for that stuff. And then your lender has multiple clients, so it might take them a few hours or even a day to get back to you with a pre-approval. Don't wait until you've got a fish on the line to go take care of all that stuff. Take care of it up front so you do not lose the house. How would you feel if you found the perfect house? You want to put an offer in and it gets declined because you don't have a pre-approval, and then it takes you a day to get it, and boom, somebody else has got it under contract. You wouldn't feel very good about that. So just go get pre-approved, right? It's also going to let you know the numbers. And for me, I would want to know the numbers. I'm an analytical person, but even if my folks aren't analytical, I still push them. Hey guys, let's make sure we can buy into these numbers first. If you're not buying into the numbers, we either got to lower your budget or decide not to buy, but let's figure that out first. And we're looking at two numbers. The biggest two numbers that I'm looking at is, what is your monthly payment going to be? And that includes your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and your HOA fee, and possibly even private mortgage insurance or a mortgage insurance premium. And the other one is your cash out of pocket at closing, right? You're going to have typically 3 to 4% in closing costs. There's exceptions to that too. And some of it can be paid by a seller. Have you negotiated that? Do we have to negotiate that? How does it impact your negotiation ability to negotiate that? There's a lot of different things involved with that. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, have you taken the time to really delve into it, educate yourself, and make yourself feel confident? That's the question, right? So really dig into those numbers. In my opinion, I would never let my daughters go look at a home without fully knowing the numbers and being confident in them. Number 5, the move. Are you hiring a company to move you? Are you going to move yourself? Do you have friends, buddies, whatever, that you're buying with pizza and beer? Or are you going to go get a professional company to do it? If you're getting a professional company, they tend to be 4 to 8 weeks out. So the second you get a contract, before you even accept it, you're going to want to call that moving company and see if they've got availability to get your stuff out, right? There are several moving companies at least in Port St. Lucie. It's a big city, but definitely make the call to confirm, then accept the offer, then confirm with the moving company, hey, I want that date, right? I've seen people get into binds over this. And I'll tell you too, I know you love your friends, but you won't believe how many people back out at the last minute. I see it all the time. I will bet you 30, 40% of the time, one of my sellers will call me and say, oh my gosh, my friends didn't show up, or all of them didn't show up, and I don't know if we're going to get this done on time. What do we do? So really make sure that you've got maybe double the people you need, so that if half of them don't show up, you're still in a good position, right? There's no right or wrong answer to this either. It's just making sure that you're aware of it and you're not thinking about it literally the week before, right? So think about that whole move and how you're going to get that in. How flexible is your closing date? If you know you got a flexible closing date, and this is usually for like month-to-month renters or folks living with their parents, they'll tell me, hey, I can move in 30 days, I can move in 90 days. And it's nice to know what you prefer. But if you're flexible on that, and I know that as your negotiator, and I see that, hey, it's really important that these guys, the sellers, get their closing date, I can say, well, hey, my folks might be willing to do that if you can move a little bit on price. Well, I can tell you they will move on price because this is a big deal to them. Great. Now I could save you thousands of dollars as a buyer because I had the discussion with you about how flexible you are with your closing date. Now, if you're not flexible with your closing date, it's one less negotiation tool I have. But my gosh, if you've got that to offer, certainly offer it if it is less important than money to you, right? Next, turning on all the utilities. Now, if you got a great real estate agent, or they've got a great team behind them, they're going to have somebody in the back, an admin person, or themselves maybe, who reaches out to the listing agent and asks them to fill out, hey, who are all your utilities with? How much are they roughly? And do you have any contact information for them, right? They can get that to you probably a week after you're under contract. And now you can start scheduling those to be turned on, right? You don't want to do that at the last minute. With some of them you can, with some of them you can't. For those that you can't, you want to make sure you do it ahead of time. So if you're using me, you're good. But if you're using any other realtor, I would always ask them about a week after you go under contract, hey, the utilities, how do I know which ones I've got? How do I schedule them? What are my contacts? Get that nailed down, and they'll start digging into it if they don't have a process already for it, right? And then the last thing is taking the important measurements for you, right? A lot of times I'll show a buyer a house. They love the house. Let's put an offer on the house. They get the house. They're so excited. And then they think, oh my gosh, is my couch going to fit? Is my bed going to fit? Where am I going to put the dresser? How is this going to work? How is that going to work? So I always tell folks, hey, when you go out as a buyer, bring a tape measure, right? Measure it out. Know how big your bed is, know how big your couch is, know how big your dresser is, so you can start to measure it out and see how comfortable you're going to be with that space that's provided. Guys, there are the top 8 things that buyers tend to forget when they're purchasing a home. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If there's anything I missed, I'd love you to put it in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much. We'll see you next Monday. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your week.